Just before we get on to time signatures, I'd like to reintroduce those 3 note values that we looked at previously. First of all, the whole note, the half note, and the quarter note. So now we know what these symbols look like and we know their names. There are also the equivalent rest values. But what do they actually mean? Well, each of these has a very specific time duration, a time value. And if we think of the whole note as being a whole entity, let's say, and we divide that whole into 2 equal parts, well, we're going to have 2 halves. And 2 half notes add up to a whole. So there's a relationship there between those notes. The same thing if we then take one of those halves and we divide that into 2 equal parts. That half is made up of 2 quarters. And this is fundamental to how rhythm works, so it needs to be understood clearly. There are 2 halves in a whole, 4 quarters in a whole, and 2 quarters in a half. So now that we've covered that, let's look at time signatures, and we're going to start with simple time. The definition of simple time is where the note used to represent the beat, the note value used to represent the beat, can be divided evenly into 2 parts. Where the note used to represent the beat can be divided evenly into 2 parts. Okay, we'll come back to that. Let's first of all just choose a note value. I'm going to use half notes. I'm just going to write some out. And we might imagine that these are just bobbing along at a set speed. They all have exactly the same value and they're all exactly the same distance apart, let's say. What does that sound like? It's just a consistent sound. But in music, we can't write quite so freely because it's going to be difficult to keep track of where we are. So we use bar lines to contain our rhythmic ideas. And as soon as I do that, it's a bit easier to deal with. It's easier on the eye. And there's a subtle difference in how that sounds as well. So can you hear this? I'm slightly emphasizing the first of each group. In fact, the first note in each bar just has a little more emphasis. And that's very much what you hear in music, even if you're not seeing it notated. You can feel the beat. People, tap their foot to the beat, nod their head to the beat, but they always feel the bar line go by. Strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak. In this example, we have 3 notes in every bar. It's a very simple rhythm. And we might even describe these notes each as being a beat, because that's the underlying pulse. So the top figure is telling us how many beats there are in each bar. And the bottom figure is going to tell us which note value has been used to represent the beat. Is it a quarter note? No. Is it a half note? Yes. So we take the 2 and write that in here, and that represents a half. So this time signature is telling us 2 things. 3 beats in every bar, each represented by a half note. Half, half, half. Of course, not all music sounds exactly like that, just a set number of beats in every bar. There might be a silence, let's say on beat 2 in a bar of 3 notes. But we have to represent that silence, and in this case we're going to use a half note rest value. How does this sound now? 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it may be that the rhythm in this bar has more than one note on the first beat. So here's the first beat, here's the second beat, here's the third. If I divide that half note into two equal parts, I would use quarters, because quarters are exactly, 2 quarters add up exactly to 1/2. So that just means we play these a little bit, well, twice as quickly. And we would spell that out as being one and. When you divide a beat into 2 equal parts, you use the beat number and then and to define the second part of that beat. How does it now sound? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3. And notice that that's the definition of simple time, where the note used to represent the beat, in this case a half note, divides evenly into 2 equal parts. Well, that's exactly what's happening here. And you could divide every one of these beats into 2 equal parts. That divides into 2 quarters. So does that. That divides into 2 quarter note rests. 2 quarters, 2 quarters, 2 quarters, 2 quarters. So where the note used to represent the beat, in this case a half note, divides evenly into 2 equal parts, we're dealing with simple time.